troubling legal stories in Malaysia and Indonesia beg the question, can you get a fair shake? And South Korea realizes something completely obvious, a need to update their cybersecurity. These stories are coming up next. This is the Asia Brief. Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, April 2nd, 2015. My name is Steve Miller, and it is a pleasure to spend this time with you here today. Now, our first story is from Indonesia. This past December, the trials of Bantleman and Ferdinand Tjiong began in Jakarta for sexual abuse of several students. Aside from the proceedings being closed to the public, a number of issues have arisen that question if the pair is actually getting a fair trial. In this case, the boys who allegedly were abused were 5. They've been questioned multiple times by parents, psychologists, and the police, and were given multiple and sometimes painful medical exams. International experts say that such treatment is inappropriate in children's cases because that can be traumatic in and of itself. The defense also alleges that the children were given leading questions. Originally, the boys said that no abuse occurred, but over time, that changed. Now, you can interpret this 2 different ways. First, the boys became more comfortable with the investigators and opened up, or 2, they simply just changed their stories after being berated. Now, regardless, international standards and the children's well-being should be addressed. Also in the case, polygraph tests were admitted into evidence, but the defense asserts that inappropriate baseline questions weren't used. They say this accounts for the defendants answering, quote, deceptively. The prosecution countered that the polygraph examiner was an expert who has successfully questioned terror suspects, so he won't be deceived in a case where the perpetrator was just a teacher. In my opinion, polygraph tests are questionable at best, and I don't put much stock into them. But get a load of this. While the children were able to pick the defendants out from photographs, they used their school photos. The children were also able to identify the defendants from police lineups, but that was with only 2 other individuals, both shorter and Indonesian, rather than using other foreigners. In fact, they all weren't dressed the same. In my opinion, this is like lining 3 people up and asking which one isn't the same. It's not that hard to do. The defense also accuses investigators of not seeking exculpatory evidence. The defense also says Chief Judge Nur Aslam Butsaman set arbitrary time limits that kept them from presenting all their evidence, forcing some defense witnesses to cut their testimony short or omitting others. Hey, if these 2 actually committed the crime, throw the book at them. These are children we're talking about. But do it in a just and fair system, not something that appears contrived. 5 members, that's right, 5 members of the private news outlet Malaysian Insider have been arrested under the nation's strict sedition laws. Police raided their offices Monday and seized computers and other material items. They arrested managing editor Lionel Moraes, features editor Zulkifli Sulong, and Malay news editor Arman Iskandar, along with publisher Ho K Tat and chief executive Jahabar Sadiq a day later. They are being investigated under Section 4 of the Sedition Act. If found guilty, they face up to 3 years in prison. At the center of the issue is a March 25th news story that claimed Malaysia's 9 state sultans had rejected a proposal by an opposition party that would have amended federal law to allow the use of Islamic punishment. Authorities have denied discussing the matter. Human Rights Watch's Deputy Asia Director Phil Robertson says, since being re-elected in 2013, Prime Minister Najib Razak has used the Sedition Act with increasing frequency to silence critics. And Benjamin Ishmael, the head of the Reporters Without Borders Asia-Pacific desk, adds, these arrests have all the hallmarks of a warning to the entire Malaysian press, one designed to deter anyone from taking too much interest in the activities of the government and the country's leaders. Arresting reporters for simply doing their jobs is never a good idea. In fact, it stinks. Currently, Malaysia ranks 147th out of 180 countries in the 2015 Reporters Without Borders Press Freedom Index. Do not arrest reporters or intimidate them for simply doing their jobs. The only thing that succeeds in doing is calling into question the validity of your government. South Korea will create a new high-level cybersecurity post, and let me tell you, boy is it needed. North Korea has successfully and repeatedly hacked and hampered the nation's networks. Presidential spokesman Min Kyung-uk said the creation of the new presidential post is designed to beef up the country's control over cybersecurity. The creation of the post may date back to the successful 2013 hacks by North Korea against broadcasters. This is a smart move on President Park Geun-hye's part because this is something that is sorely needed. Quite frankly, South Korea is being outpaced by the DPRK in terms of cyber warfare. The nation relies too heavily on ActiveX, Windows XP, and Internet Explorer, therefore leaving too many doors open. In fact, if they don't do anything to change the status quo, the leaking of nuclear plant plans will be the least of their worries. Well, my friends, those are the stories for today, and if you have a thought on them, please share them with me. To keep up with more news from the region, please follow Asian News Weekly on Facebook or Twitter. You can also send an email to the show with your questions, your comments, and your feedback. That email address is podcast@asiannewsweekly.net. If you enjoyed today's program, please share it with your friends, and if you haven't, subscribe. It's absolutely free and easy to do. Just go to asiannewsweekly.net and click the subscribe tab, or do so in your favorite podcast application like iTunes or Stitcher. That's it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Steve Miller, reminding you to be true to yourself and to always be awesome.